Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Fearless Generations with Terry Sayer and Kelly Fox.
Hello and welcome to Fearless Generations, 12 Steps to Freedom. This is Kelly Fox, and we are wrapping up Step 7, Surrender. So tonight is integration, and we're excited to bring together everything we've been talking about this month, add in some new great stuff with our guest coach tonight, and have a great time. So Terry is in Florida right now with my niece and my brand new great niece and my sister. And so it's midnight there, and she hasn't shown up yet, so we will see if she does. But we also have an amazing guest on tonight, her first time on the podcast, and so we're super excited to have her here. And she is coming from Central Time, so it's 11 for her. So everybody is up late except for me. So Terry just got here, so let's welcome her to the show. How are you doing, my beautiful co-host?
Well, I'm doing great. It's only midnight.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I just got done explaining that. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
But we are excited that you are here and that you stayed up late to be here with us. And
you bet. I wouldn't miss it.
Yeah. So I was just about to announce who our guest coach is. So everyone, please welcome to the podcast tonight, Tara Parks.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome, Tara.
Excited to be here.
I always feel like we should have like clapping right then, but
oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
It would be, huh?
We'll imagine it.
Well, Tara, thank you so much for being here with us and staying up late as well. And please tell the audience, who is it that you get to serve, and what is it that you get to do?
So I serve primarily in a business aspect. I serve small businesses and organizations that are looking for ways to help combat the retention issue that everyone seems to have. I serve by basically training and teaching people how to create better experiences for employees, for customers, and for volunteers.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
I've never heard you say volunteers before, so that's got my wheels moving now.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I do volunteer work, nonprofits, schools with teachers. Yes.
Awesome. I love it. Such a wide range of people that you help, and so important.
Everybody has experiences every single day, and my framework is extremely simple to implement. It doesn't cost a lot of money, but it's just based on kindness. So it does force people to change their outlook and how they approach, how they're treating others, just a little bit differently every single day to create those better experiences.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. So we're talking tonight about surrender. So Tara, what does surrender mean to you?
I think in the basic form, I think it just means kind of I don't want to say giving up of, but kind of just giving up of your own will and just surrendering to, what is meant to be, living a life that's going to be, serving others in a better way.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's quite. I don't know if that's quite the definition that you were looking for, but
I
I just think of surrendering my will.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, we've talked about that as well. Terry's talked about surrendering her will to her higher power, and I definitely feel that is something that surrender is all about. It's releasing that control that we really don't have, but we like to pretend we do and fight for. Releasing that that need for it, releasing or letting go of this expectation of a certain situation or series of events, or surrendering or letting go of the need to always be right. Letting all of that go, letting go that ego part of ourselves so that we can be humble and we can be obedient to our higher power, but also to be committed to our values and the standards that we set for ourselves.
Yeah, I really like that idea of letting go. For some reason, I kind of pair it with forgiveness. Because when you forgive, you are, letting go. You are letting go of those old notions of, whatever it might be, the way that you felt like you were wronged, and really giving in to that higher power and to that humbleness.
Yeah, absolutely. Forgiveness is the tool this month, and so we definitely agree with that. Terry, what's going on with you? What's coming up for you?
Yes, I appreciate what both of you said thus far. Surrendering, I think forgiveness is a perfect example of surrendering. We hang on to things from the past that we beat ourselves up about. We worry about the future and what if, what might, what could or should happen, and just forgiving our past and not hanging on to a specific outcome for our future allows us to live in the present. And I think surrendering to the present is such a powerful way to live one's life. That's where life happens. It happens in the present. It's in those moment-to-moment decisions that we make, those choices that we make every moment that gives us our journey, that provides our path, that gives us the confidence to move forward. And forgiveness is so important, especially forgiving ourselves. Really, when we don't forgive others, it's punishing ourselves, not the other person, right? They've probably forgotten what it's all about, and it's not consuming their lives. It's those moments we won't forgive that consume our lives. And forgiving ourselves for decisions we've made in the past, or actions that we had. I know when Kelly said about surrendering, always having to be right, that was kind of the context that I lived within in my work and in my family, that I was right. And I was very hesitant to surrender the fact that I was right until I started into the coaching world, and I went through some life experiences that, that you talk about hitting a donkey between their ears to get their attention. I had some life experiences with that. And I realized that I would rather be happy than be right. And I learned to surrender that idea that my opinion, my decisions were the right decisions. And I began to open up my heart and listen and observe and be flexible. And that really was the beginning of my journey to happiness. And so I think when she said that, it always hits a chord with me, because that's something I surrendered. And that was that I was right. And my life changed drastically when I was willing to surrender that and practice happiness and humility and being open-hearted. So by surrendering that one concept that I was always right, it opened an entire new pathway for me to have joy in my heart and to be happy. And I learned so much from other people by being observant and being a good listener. And as a lifelong learner, it really changed my perspective and opened up so many new thoughts and ways of looking at situations, and not being so single-minded, but being open-minded. And so surrendering, I could give a lot of examples of things that I've surrendered in my life, but that was the beginning, when I surrendered that I had to be right, or I was right. It wasn't I had to be, I was. And surrendering that just really opened me up to grow and to propel myself forward on my journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
very, very impactful.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that might come into play with the people that you work with, in leadership or dealing with employees or coworkers or I can't think of the word. Clients is the only word that's coming to mind. That there's things that we surrender to have better relations.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that you say that, because what that brings up for me is a time in my life when I was really struggling with my marriage, and really, really at a point where I knew that my mental health was being affected, but I knew how much more difficult it was going to be without a two-income family. And I still surrendered to what I knew was right, and still made the decision to, separate from my husband at the time. I mean, this was back in 2011, and it was extremely difficult for me and my kids, but I knew that if I hadn't surrendered to that my life would have been very different, and it would have been, I may not have even been here anymore. If I hadn't surrendered at that point. So, although things were difficult, it was at least tolerable.
Yeah.
In that situation, I mean.
Yeah. I think that's the one time when it's, we talk about not living in the past, but I think it's important that we honor what we learned in the past. And I think in retrospect, to the times in our life when we were able to surrender to what was right or what was best or what our values were, or, just what our gut told us, or what, if it was a spiritual thing that we felt, we can look back at those moments and anchor the fact that because we surrendered, our lives progressed in a more productive and proactive way. But at the moment, it's a decision in the past that's a challenge. And yet I think honoring our capacity to make those decisions and to surrender really anchors that process to us in the present, and allows us to continue having that openness to align our decisions with our values, which our decision is to surrender a toxic relationship, or is to surrender a career move that was was not the best and to take another path, or it's a surrender of friendship because it's no longer supportive to either person, but the loyalty, it's just, it gives you that anchor to continue living your life in that open-hearted way, that open to inspiration, open to a willingness to surrender, whether it's a person, an experience, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I think surrender is definitely not an easy step by any means. Yet it is necessary, just like all of them, for us to be able to move towards freedom. And it's one that you're going to continually do. Just like we don't just have, one awareness and we're good. We're continually becoming more and more aware. And we surrender in layers. And we forgive in layers. And, being willing to take it to the next level, being willing to look at it deeper, being willing to see, what is it that we can do to move ourselves closer to freedom. Well, is there something we can surrender? Being willing to continue to look at that and ask ourselves those questions. And that's not something that's easy. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you're absolutely right. I mean, asking ourselves those questions and answering them honestly, I think, is probably the hardest part.
Mm-hmm. When you're working with groups of people, Tara, to help them have a more effective relationships in whether it's a nonprofit or it's a teachers group or it's a business, what are some of the ways that you would address this concept of being open-hearted? Because you talked about treating one another with kindness and just, creating an atmosphere that's healthy. What are some of the things that you've learned, you've come to know because of the work that you do?
Sure. So the first thing is just accepting that creating a culture starts at the top, and that people need to be open-minded and open to trying to do things a different way. In this world that we're in right now, consumers, customers, employees, volunteers, everybody wants to know that they matter in whatever it is that they're doing. If they're wearing their consumer hat, they want to know that they matter to the businesses that they spend their money at. If they're wearing their employee hat, they want to know that the work that they're doing on a daily basis matters. And so for the employer to surrender and say, I understand that you want to feel valued. What can we do to make you feel more valued? And part of that starts with, communicating more clearly with your staff and building relationships with them. Communicating them with them about goals, surrendering, especially in the corporate environment, and a lot of times people who are in positions of power, they feel like they have to hoard all that important information because that's what makes them important, is not sharing it with people below them, right? And one of the best it was one of the best positions that I had because I had a great boss, but I didn't like the company at all. But he was amazing, and he always shared, what was happening with the company, where we were at. He treated us as if we were equal, and he was able to surrender that, information that typically managers hoard because that's what makes them feel so important. And when you can do that in that capacity and help empower your team, that is that's a huge step towards showing them how much they matter. That's a key thing, and then just being empathetic to what they're going through, surrendering to the fact that they may not have a life that looks like yours. Their life may be filled with lots of stressors, and there may be things in their life that they're dealing with that you had no idea. But if you ask questions, and if you are intentionally curious with your staff, and you work towards building that relationship with them, you'll know whether or not they're married. You'll know whether or not their kids are sick that day, and maybe that's why they're having an off day. You'll know whether or not they're a caregiver to an elderly parent, perhaps, or to a spouse or a partner that's ill. So accepting the fact that, everybody's priority is not their job. It shouldn't be. The job is the means to the end. But you shouldn't be there to live there, and that shouldn't be the focus of your life. And yet employers feel like that should be. They treat people as if that should be their focus, and that's just not the case. So it's really about, getting employers to really surrender their current ideals of how people should be treated, or the, companies that are trying to get better customer experience, surrendering to the fact that there are other choices in this world, and you're not the only brand that carries this particular product, and people have choices, and it's important that they know that they matter to the people that they work with, and to the people that they pay for services.
Yeah. I really like the concept of surrendering. It's kind of like surrendering I don't know quite how to say it, but it's when you communication is so important. I think everyone agrees that when there's a difficulty, it's because there's poor communication. And so if you communicate to listen, to learn, to observe, just like you were saying, to know the other person, you're not thinking about what you're going to say. You're listening, right? And so it's surrendering that need to always say the right thing, or to always say something more clever, or to say something, I know.
Be right, like you said before, be right all the time.
Yeah, that's ineffective communication, yet so many people want to, I think they want to matter, is why they don't listen and they don't really communicate and don't observe, is because they're concerned that they don't matter. So it's kind of like a catch, isn't it? So how do you build that culture where people really listen to each other and really observe, listen not just with their ears but with their eyes, so they look at the person when this person's talking, and their heart is involved, so they're understanding what the person's saying. And that's surrendering you being the main person who talks, or the person with all the knowledge like you're talking about. It's just really surrendering that need for you to be noticed in order to notice other people and give them what they need. In turn, then builds that culture of mattering. Yeah, I really resonate with that.
A big piece of that is just simply understanding the business and understanding who you serve. Understanding the best type of person, personality-wise, what kind of people would work well in this environment, and who can you personally work well with, right? I mean, you don't want to have a whole bunch of people that are all the same, that all think the same, but at the same time, there have to be certain values that people are willing to buy into in order to belong to that culture, and get accepted into that culture. And if they buy into the same values, if they have similar values to what the company does, then that's a good start at making sure that you've got the right people on the bus. Sometimes you've got the right people on the bus, and they're just in the wrong seats. And so sometimes being open enough to being like, hey, we've got amazing crew right now. But I think that, this person would feel better if they, would be more productive if they were in a different role, something that served them a little bit better. I mean, maybe they accepted the position because they didn't have a choice at that time, right? Maybe they just took the job because they really needed a job. And sometimes you can't be picky when that happens. But if you've got a manager, a leader, an owner who is willing to understand that, sometimes people just need to be shifted around a little bit to make sure. But in order for that to happen, that owner or that business owner needs to really understand their own business and their own business principles, and the pieces of the puzzle that are all working together within their own organization. If they don't understand fully what's happening in their own organization, that's where a lot of the communication breakdown happens. The building relationships doesn't happen, and that competitiveness tends to start coming in and really pulling at people in different directions, and people start getting very unhappy because they feel like they don't have any say in things. So it really starts with having, that organization leader who really pays attention to the finer details and is willing to make a shift in how they think about their organization and their business, and has the ability to make those needed changes and to practice that change, because it doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow process when you're, looking at a larger organization, to get everybody on board and to get everybody to surrender the old ideas of how they treated people and how their culture felt and sounded and looked within that organization, getting people to sort of surrender that old way and be open to trying a new way to make sure that the company is more viable and that long term the company has greater success.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much good stuff, ladies. We are out of time. Tara, I want to give you a moment to share your contact information so that if any of our listeners would like to get a hold of you, they know where to go.
Absolutely. So my website is taraparks.com. That's TARAPARKS.com. My email is Tara, and you can reach me by phone number at 715-581-9950 to schedule a consultation call, and I do a free consultation with all of my clients.
Awesome. Love that. Thank you so much. And please post that in our Facebook group so that everyone can see it's real easy and have easy access to it. We want to thank you so much for being here with us tonight and remind you all that the 12 Steps to Freedom were created by Rhonda Britton, the CEO and founder of the Fearless Living Institute. If you would like to know more about Fearless Living, please go check it out at fearlessliving.org. You can find out everything about Fearless Generations and Terry and I at fearlessgenerations.org. And you can find out about all of the past podcast episodes are there, as well as information about our free workshop every month, which is the fourth Saturday of every month from 10 to 11:30 Pacific time. Also, there's information there on our retreat coming up in September, which we are super excited about. We would love for you to go check it out, and we'd love to talk to you more about it if you are interested in that. And, and just go check out more about what it is that we do and who we are and how you can become more fearless. So, Terry, any last words?
No, I just really appreciate Tara and being our guest, and gave me a lot of good things to think about. So I appreciate that so much. And just remember to be open-hearted and surrender those things in your life that are self-destructive.
Yes.
Absolutely. And thank you guys so much
you.
for having me on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes,
Come back
we
again.
loved having you here. We loved having you here.
Excellent.
All right, everybody, come back next week. We will be here Monday night, 9 p.m. Pacific time. And until then, be fearless.
Be fearless. Good night.
Good night.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.